Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into one of history's absolute most gripping survival stories. We're going to see exactly how Sir Ernest Shackleton took a completely doomed expedition and turned it into the ultimate masterclass in crisis leadership. We're looking at a story that tests the very limits of human endurance and psychology. And honestly, whether you're leading a team in a corporate boardroom or just trying to navigate the unpredictable chaos of everyday life, the lessons we're about to unpack here are timeless. I want you to picture this. Imagine being trapped in a freezing, desolate hellscape for 522 days. You're entirely cut off from all human contact. No smartphones, no GPS, no emergency radios, nothing. It's literally just you, the biting cold, and the crushing weight of keeping a team alive when the rest of the world has already written you off as dead. Well, that was the brutal reality for Ernest Shackleton and his crew. All right, part one, the unforgiving Antarctic dream, from glory to survival.
So, let's hit rewind back to 1914. Shackleton's original goal was staggering. He wanted to make a 2,900-kilometer trek straight across the Antarctic continent, and he expected it to take about 120 days. But, as it turns out, Mother Nature had totally different plans. When his ship, the Endurance, got hopelessly trapped in the dense, crushing ice of the Weddell Sea, the entire mission shifted in an instant. It went from a quest for glory to a desperate fight for mere survival.
In the absolute blink of an eye, Shackleton was no longer an explorer. He was a leader, suddenly responsible for keeping 28 men alive, and they only had about a month's worth of rations. Think about the immense pressure of that exact moment. You've got 28 lives completely depending on your next command, and you're stranded in an ocean where the temperature routinely plummets to negative 50 degrees Celsius during storms. Which brings us to part two. Crisis on the ice. The Endurance is crushed. You know, the crazy thing is, this wasn't some sudden, explosive Hollywood disaster. It was a slow, creeping catastrophe. The ship actually got stuck in January of 1915, and for 9 agonizing months, the crew just had to wait, sitting through the endless 24-hour darkness of the Antarctic winter. Then finally, in October, the relentless, grinding pressure of the ice just crushed the hull. They pumped water for 3 days straight trying to save her, but the ship was totally doomed. As the ship sank beneath the ice, they were left stranded on a drifting sheet of frozen ocean in negative 8.5 degrees Celsius. Absolute, soul-crushing despair really threatened to overtake the crew. This quote right here from crew member Tom McLeod basically captures the exact vibe of that moment. I mean, they were literally standing on a block of ice, watching their only link to the outside world disappear. Let's move into part 3, Mastering Morale and Mindset. The psychology of survival. Okay, this is a pivotal moment. Shackleton realized right away that to survive this frozen nightmare, mental toughness was going to be their absolute best weapon. So he instituted this brilliant psychological playbook. He gave every single man a mandatory daily task, just to stave off depression. And here's a wild detail. While they were barely surviving on a super meager diet, he strategically acted confident about their food supplies. He outright lied about the quantities they had left, because he understood a fundamental truth. Despair was far deadlier than starvation. This is where we see what leading from the front really looks like. To enforce a harsh 2-pound weight limit for personal gear, Shackleton dramatically threw his own gold coins and his Bible right into the snow. The takeaway here is all about how you communicate sacrifice to your team. By abandoning his most prized possessions first, there was no debate. He set the standard. Even the expedition's photographer had to ditch hundreds of glass negatives, keeping only 150. And incredibly, those are the exact images that later showed the world this impossible story.
Now for part 4, the impossible rescue mission. Leaving Elephant Island.
So, after 497 agonizing days of literally just drifting on ice, the crew finally hit solid ground at Elephant Island. But there's a massive catch. It's completely deserted. Facing 3 frankly impossible rescue options, Shackleton chose the one furthest away, South Georgia Island. Even though it was 1,300 kilometers out, he knew his guys were way too weak to fight the headwinds to the closer islands, so he made the call to use the deadly ocean currents to their advantage instead. He takes just 5 men in this tiny, beat-up lifeboat and launches straight into the Drake Passage. Now, if you don't know, the Drake Passage is literally the world's most dangerous ocean route. It's an absolute graveyard for massive ships, famous for monstrous 12-meter waves, yet Shackleton decided to cross it in a hand-rowed boat. They rowed in grueling 4-hour shifts, soaked to the bone, eating while lying down so they wouldn't fall out, and they actually survived a hurricane just 3 miles from their destination. But wait, it somehow gets crazier. Even after surviving the ocean, Shackleton and 2 of his men had to pull off the impossible yet again. Because of the hurricane, they landed on the totally uninhabited side of the island. Their boat was trashed, so sailing around it was out of the question. Leaving 3 exhausted men behind on the beach, Shackleton and 2 others hiked blind across 29 miles of unmapped, freezing, 10,000-foot mountains. They did it in just 36 hours, without tents or sleeping bags, literally carving steps into the ice as they climbed. It was such a superhuman feat that professional climbers with modern gear didn't even replicate it until 1955.
Part 5. Defying Death and Doubts. The Power of Hope.
While all that was happening, let's not forget the 22 men still back on Elephant Island. They were starving, battling severe frostbite, and surviving by living underneath upside-down lifeboats for 128 days. But Shackleton had done something really smart before he left. He appointed Frank Wild to lead them. And every single morning, without fail, Wild would look out at the empty, freezing ocean and tell the men to roll up their sleeping bags because the boss was coming. It's just a profound masterclass in delegated leadership and keeping hope alive. And then, on August 30th, 1916, it actually happens. After 3 previous rescue attempts were blocked by thick ice, Shackleton finally breaks through on a Chilean ship called the Yelcho. He stunned his desperate crew just as they were preparing to give up and launch their own suicidal rescue attempt. Just imagine that scene. A ship finally appearing on the horizon after nearly 2 years of ice, starvation, and sheer misery. The boss had actually returned.
Finally, Part 6, a masterclass in leadership, the ultimate victory.
Look, Shackleton completely failed his original mission. It was a total bust. But what he achieved instead was infinitely more miraculous. When we look at the plan versus the reality was exponentially harder, longer, and deadlier. But he didn't waste a single second mourning the plan that fell apart. He just relentlessly managed the reality in front of him. It really shows that true leadership is defined almost entirely by how you respond when everything goes wrong.
And here is the absolute most mind-blowing statistic of this entire story: 0. Against all odds, surviving freezing temperatures, crushed ships, and the deadliest ocean on Earth, exactly 0 lives were lost under Shackleton's command. 28 men went into the ice, and 28 men came out. That is a metric of success that transcends any geographical discovery on a map.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this thought. When your own plans shatter and you are pushed to the absolute brink, how are you going to step up and lead? Are you going to freeze up in despair, or will you, like Shackleton, throw